Tonight's thought. How can anyone say I'm a product of the self-esteem generation when I'm constantly feeling bad about myself? Yeah, there's so much talk lately, these last few years, loosely throwing around the term millennial snowflakes. You know, I want to go back to the days not that long ago when there was this vernacular debate about what to call people my age. These people who were born between the years 1982 and 2000. Like, before us came Generation X. Before them came baby boomers. What were we going to be? Well, let's see. We could call them Generation Y. That comes right after X. That sounded pretty logical, but it wasn't fully adopted. Oh, we can call them the Generation Aughts, right? Because, they're coming of age within the millennial and, between 2000 and 2010, they're coming of age. Wait a second. What'd you just say? Oh, millennial? Yeah, let's call them millennials. Oh, okay. That's pretty good. I don't know. I mean, I don't think whatever we would have been called, whenever you start labeling something, pretty quickly thereafter, it becomes a negative. There's really nothing good to say about Generation X when you describe them with that label. And the same goes for millennials. Like, they were called slackers, and we're called snowflakes. That just deflates my self-esteem. It hurts my feelings. From Birmingham, Alabama, this is the Midnight Citizen Show. I am your host, Mike Booty. Yes, thank you so much for being here with me tonight in the studio. It's a Saturday evening, a beautiful spring evening in late March. As a teacher, this is the start of my spring break. And the weather's nice outside. It's a little bit chilly, but it's okay. It's good enough. I've got my window open tonight. You can hear the sounds of the city behind me. If I were to turn off this music. This microphone's not really good to pick up anything that is to the side of me, but trust me, they're there. I will tell you this though, I'm gonna have to keep my thumb on the knobs of the compressor tonight. This compressor I've got plugged into the mixer here. Its only job, which is to make sure that any sudden loud noises don't just blow out your eardrums and mine. We know that hearing's very important these days, especially if you're listening to a podcast. But yeah, no, lately we've had these incredibly loud, obtrusive sirens come through. And it's been a little bit of an inconvenience, to be honest with you. Like, I know that they're going to save people's lives. I know that's what they do. You know, these police and the ambulances and the fire trucks with their heavy sirens. I know they're going to save people's lives. But the way that they come through my neighborhood here in the city, as small as it is, there's buildings all over the place, and we're in kind of a canyon. So everything around here is just like designed naturally to be an echo chamber. So a tiny little siren will carry quite loudly. And they wake me up in the middle of the night. They've been waking me up in the middle of the night. There's actually one that I can hear far off in the distance right now. And by the end of this episode, it will probably come like just barreling up 29th Street outside. These loud sirens. I guess the thing is, like, I'm not complaining. Again, I know that they're going to save people's lives, but if there's no traffic on the street, I don't understand why these things need to blow their sirens, right? I mean, can't they just go? A good example, 2:00 the other night, I'm woken up by this like fire truck barreling up the street from Lakeview. There's nobody here at 2:00 in the morning. We don't live in New York City. We are not the city that never sleeps. We're the city that sleeps. And yet here they come, barreling down an empty avenue at 2:00 in the morning, blasting the siren. There's nobody on the road. And man, goddamn, it's loud. And I was thinking, like, why would they do this? Why would they feel the need to blow these sirens? Because surely they can get to an emergency. And if they see, they suddenly come to like a heavy traffic jam or just any car that's in their way, then they can start up the siren. Okay. It's just a quick flip of the switch, bud. Then they can start it. But I was thinking that when I was a kid, we would take frequent field trips to the fire department. It was one of these things that was like designed to empower us as young children, to get out of the classroom and go down to the fire department. It was supposed to empower us. Really, I think what it was supposed to do is just like get us out of the classroom for a few hours so that the teacher could rest, because the fire department was literally right next door to my school. So we just walk over to it and hang out with the fire people. And, they would give us the tour around the fire station. They would like show us where they hung out, where they played ping pong, and where they slid down the fire pole. That was obviously a big deal, going down the fire pole, because growing up in the 80s, we had these, that was just like the ultimate thing, to get on one of these things and like slide from one story down to the next without having to like walk downstairs. Of course, I grew up in a single level home, so I didn't even have stairs. So the fact that I could like walk into a house and be above the ground was amazing to me. And we had this fire pole that we would slide down. But of course, we all thought it was going to be like Ghostbusters, where it was this gigantic 20-foot pole from the top level to the bottom. But it wasn't. It was a very small firehouse, and I think honestly the fire department was just there for show, like the Dalmatian or something. You would get on this thing, and like 6 feet later you were down there. It was very, very anticlimactic. Also just coming up with the idea of the Adam West 1960s Batman show was on television. So we kind of thought we were going to get on it on the top floor, and when we reached the bottom floor, we were going to be like in new clothes or something. Like maybe not like a bat cape and a cowl, but like at least maybe that flame retardant fire suit that they wear. But no, that didn't happen either. We were still in the same clothes that we were in when we came from the top. Anyway. And of course, the major thing that we also got to do was blow the fire horn, the siren. That was exciting. They let us each step into that giant fire truck. And I remember that thing being tall. Like when you're only 6 years old and you're lifted into this giant truck, you feel like you're 100 feet tall. They would show us where it is and let us flick it, and everybody got to do so. And the whole point is that there may be somebody, maybe not all of us, maybe not most of us, but there may be like one or two in our group, these little kids, who would that would change their entire lives, and they would grow up, and they would go through fire training school, and they would try to get on with the fire department, which is a very hard thing to do. It's very hard to get signed on with the fire department, to get a job somewhere, because you have to be very good at it, very dedicated, and very physical. And after all these years, could be 20 years or so, of finally, getting a job at a fire department, you're there on your first ride and you're going down the road and it's like 2:00 in the morning. And like, I guess like, what are you going to do? Not blow the fire siren? Yeah, we did a lot of things like that in school. Trips to the fire department, trips to the police station. We would always, be taken out of school to like go see these people who would come in, these like adults who would come in and lecture to us, but they would always be funny. They would be like these kid comedians, these, people who turned the lunchroom into like a nightclub for kindergartners and first graders and things. Sometimes they would bring in magic. And we all just thought it was fun. And it wasn't until years later when people started talking about millennial snowflakes that all these trips, these empowerment trips, and all these kid comedian magicians would just be shed on as part of the overarching self-esteem movement of the 80s and 90s that made us all into delicate little puppies, right? And made us kind of rethink everything that we'd been exposed to when we were children. Yeah, that time I guess was now that I think of it, there was a lot of dialogue going around between us, like, you are unique, you are special. Just because you exist means that you are entitled to whatever you want. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you are not special, right? There was a lot of that going on. And I suppose, at 5, 6, 7 years old, you're very impressionable. And, you're going to remember the most words in your entire life at that age. Your brain is constantly developing. And, you go, it's like called indoctrination. There's really no better way to say it. Adults get a hold of you with their agendas and they just start saying it to you over and over again. You start repeating it. And then it just becomes your subconscious mantra kind of for the rest of your life, unless you get deprogrammed, I suppose. Yeah, there were, I guess, the way that you kind of got to kids, and I suppose it works now, although I guess it's more through like video games now. But when I was a child, growing up, there was this major movement in the toy industry to give us these dolls, these toys that didn't really do anything. They didn't really have a functional purpose. The only thing that they were really there for was to make us feel accepted, right? Like our parents had things like Barbie. I mean, Barbie was still a big thing when my sister was a little girl, but Barbie came of age in the 50s and the 60s, and it allowed girls to, and some guys, to live out their lives through these little dolls. Put them in different scenarios, right? Like put them in these houses, or put them in cars and take them to the beach, or go to the shopping mall or something like that. They would actually have a functional purpose. Likewise, boys had G.I. Joes, which allowed them to, see themselves as combat infantry, just training them to be prepared for like a world that is full of war and conflict and chaos, and teaching them to act accordingly from a very young age. Okay, like these dolls were not perfect, but they at least had a function of, giving children certain scenarios. But when I was growing up, there was like a list of, there was like a whole series of dolls that were coming out, that their only functional purpose was just to make us feel accepted. Case in point was like the Cabbage Patch Kid. Okay. The Cabbage Patch Kid was this kind of, it was like this like plush doll. And it was actually quite a boon to the Southern economy where I am, because they were, the Cabbage Patch like world headquarters was in Helen, Georgia. And it was a big deal. Like my wife often talks about how she went there when she was a young girl, and she was able to go through and like adopt a Cabbage Patch doll. It's very much like the Build-A-Bear workshop today, where you go in and they give you like adoption papers and they allow you a little bit to like build it and things like that. So you're walking away at the end of the day with like a unique Cabbage Patch doll that's yours. And I guess the thing is, like, these kids are like, I guess they're orphans. Like that's why you're adopting them, but they're also like half vegetable or something. But you would take these home and their only true purpose, like they didn't allow you to put yourself in certain scenarios by, putting these things in those scenarios as your proxy. Like you weren't putting them in like tanks or anything, or in these like giant doll houses, or putting them in cars and pretending to go like, to the restaurant with your friends or anything. You were just carrying them around all day long and getting them dirty, and your mom would put them in the washing machine, and she would allow you to kind of like dry it off with a towel. And by the way, I did not have a Cabbage Patch doll. This isn't me. Okay. My sisters did. I didn't pretend to give this thing a bath or anything. Okay. But, and likewise though, there were also these Care Bears. Okay. So these are like little, bears of different colors, and they all have like patches with different symbols on their bellies, like a rainbow symbol or like a cloud symbol or whatever. And I guess the idea is like when all these Care Bears come together, they can like defeat the forces of evil. And they like live in the sky on a cloud, and they help out the little kids below. This is not like a realistic scenario. You can't really expect something like this in the real world to happen the way that they would with like Barbies and G.I. Joes. But what it's teaching you is like the power of friendship. Okay. Getting all your friends together to solve a problem. Not with like the patches on your chest, but like the different skills that you might have. Something like that. Like this was a self-esteem toy. The most important thing for me was probably the My Buddy doll. Like the My Buddy doll was the My Buddy doll was just this thing I got for my birthday when I was either 2 or 3 years old. And this thing, like I would call it like the imaginary friend manifested. It's like somebody in New York was sitting in their big tower along with these other toy company executives, and they were smoking cigars and they were drinking brandy, and somebody just says like, my kid's got this imaginary friend. He just is talking to it all day long. So what if we like made that? I said like, what do you mean we made an imaginary friend? He's imaginary. I know, but what if we get like the quilts and the stitches? And we actually just like, I don't know, make this thing, put some clothes on it or something. Oh yeah. Like some overalls. Yeah. Overalls. And we give it a haircut, and, the kids can just drag them around so we can actually sell them their imagination. Oh yeah. That's a good idea. My parents thought it would be a good idea for me. I got this My Buddy doll, right? This commercial is very famous. I think anybody who's around my age, remembers not only the words, but the precise images that go with those words of this commercial.
My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. Wherever I go, he goes. My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. I'll teach him everything that I know. My buddy and me like to climb up a tree. My buddy and me, we're the best friends it could be. My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy and me.
My buddy.
So, you have this kid just, all he's doing is just doing stuff. He's climbing trees. He's in a clubhouse. He's riding his little, I don't know, shining cartwheel thing around. He's just doing stuff, but he's got this My Buddy with him. And it's designed to make him feel like he's accepted, like he's got a friend who will unconditionally love him and do whatever he wants all the time. I had one of these things from the time I was about 2 or 3 to maybe 6 or 7 years old. And, I mean, I won't say I don't miss it. I mean, it was a good companion. I think the major reason why my mom thought this would be a good thing for me, this My Buddy doll. Okay. And by the way, I am aware that, My Buddy was such a big toy that, it inspired a horror movie called Child's Play, where, this My Buddy looking doll is, possessed by this, evil criminal voodoo mastermind and tries to kill this little kid and like assume his soul and all that. Like, so, I mean, you can't look at this thing and not think that it's a little bit creepy. Like it never shuts its eyes or anything like that. But my parents thought this was a good thing for me because, when I was in kindergarten, especially, my mom taught at a school. She taught high school, at a school in the country about an hour and a half away from where we lived. And so that she didn't have to spend extra money, on daycare or anything like that. Like she was able to enroll me in kindergarten, at the school where she taught. So she was able to bring me to school. So I went to school every day with her, but I would have to get up very early and commute an hour and a half to the country with her, which was really, I already lived in the country. So this was like deep country, Alabama, a place called Ohatchee. Okay. It's about halfway between Pell City and Anniston, Alabama, where I was born. So end of the week, all these kids who lived in this country community would go home with their friends and they would play and have a good time together. And I didn't have anybody because nobody was willing to drive an hour and a half to come and hang out with me for a day. So I had this My Buddy doll. That's what I had. So like, this was my friend all weekend long. I know. Like, don't cry for me. I'm fine now, but but Monday would come and I would feel as if I had a pretty nice, productive weekend with a friend of mine who, who saw things the way that I did, who saw the world the way that I did, who, never got tired on me, never went to bed, never went to sleep first of the slumber party. And, that's kind of, for about 3 years or so, I had this like unconditional friendship, which is not something that you get much in this world. Friendships are not unconditional. So with certain dolls, like My Buddy, okay, like they were making us feel loved. They were teaching us compassion, but they also weren't giving us anything back. And so I think this is the reason, one of the reasons why so many people today are hard on the self-esteem movement that these millennials like myself grew up with. And yeah, certainly there's been a lot of backlash out there against these so-called millennials. I don't really care about it that much. I mean, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, anytime you give a label to something, it's going to get ridiculed. It makes it easier to ridicule. Once you can just like take all of your presuppositions about a topic and boil it down to a single word, it's easy to, ridicule it from then on out, because now everybody kind of understands what you mean. And of course, this backlash against millennials has also spurred this backlash from millennials against what they would now label as boomers, like no longer baby boomers, but boomers, this big statement now, okay, boomer. Like whenever somebody wants to just explain something to a younger person, they get called okay, boomer, to encapsulate all these presuppositions of like patronization and condescension on the part of the older party. See, like, my kids, I teach high school, and anytime it makes my job hard, because anytime I try to explain something to them, they will sometimes call me, or they'll say, "Okay, boomer," which is difficult as a teacher because that's your job. You're literally explaining things to children all day long. You get called, "Okay, boomer," right? But yeah, you go on the internet. So, there's obviously all you have to do, like on YouTube, if you want to see some of these voices slamming millennials, is go to YouTube and just type in, millennial snowflake, comma, Dave Ramsey, or millennial snowflake, comma, Fox News. And it's all these old people on there that are just the typical condescending old fogies, just saying that we're all entitled, that we grew up to believe that the world owes us something. Snowflakes, right? Here's Dave Ramsey. And I want to say, by the way, I'm going to play you a little bit of this. This is a video is entitled, "Your Precious Little Snowflakes Need to Work." Dave Ramsey rant. Dave Ramsey is this financial guru out of Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I will say that he has taught me a lot about how to manage money. I got out of debt largely based on Dave Ramsey's advice of, snowballing, not snowflaking, but snowballing your debts, paying them off, from smallest to biggest, and doing it that way. And today I'm more or less debt free, just a little bit, but not much to give a twist on. But Dave Ramsey can sometimes be very, very, very crude toward people that are my age, more or less like people, like me.
Some of you haven't thought about this for your tender little precious snowflakes. Work. Junior needs to plan on working now and while he's in school. I worked 40 to 60 hours a week and got out in 4 years, so shut up. I don't want to hear it. And most of you that are listening to me worked when you went to college. This idea that you can be a snowflake and just hang out over there and play beer pong in between classes is nutto. Now, if you've got the money to send your kids to college and they don't work, that's okay. I didn't make all of mine work. I had the money to pay for it, though. But you don't sit over there, play beer pong, and take out student loans because you didn't have any money. It's because you weren't working, Junior. Work. Work, 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 work. Work a lot. And don't work at some job just flopping whoppers, okay? Whopper floppers don't make any money. I'm not talking about minimum wage job. Go make some money, man. I mean, you can make some good money cutting grass, walking dogs, nanny, babysitting. Fancy word for it, nanny, right? I mean, you can make some decent bucks. 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour if you'll start watching what you're doing. And if you can pour it on and do some kind of self-employed idea. Some of you are pretty good with websites and that kind of stuff. I know one kid making pretty good money just doing SEO, and he's a junior in college. And search engine optimization, for those of you that don't know what that means. So, I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. I don't care what you do, but work. Pick out a school you can afford and apply for 40,000 scholarships. At least 1,000 minimum. Oh, and by the way, Junior can work now while he's in high school and start saving up money. Why? For college. Start working for college now. That's how you get to go.
So, it's pretty silly, especially when he says, some of you are pretty good with websites. Like, right? That's what they were saying. Okay, SEO, search engine optimization, for those of you who don't know, right? Just seeing that he probably just asked some unpaid intern to tell him what search engine optimization means. I don't know. I don't want to assume things of Dave Ramsey like he's assuming things of so-called millennials, right? But this is the typical reason why there has been such an uprising against traditional work, is because of people like Dave Ramsey who think that millennials don't want to work and they just they're too lazy. They're wanting to spend their time sitting around playing beer pong. There's this fundamental missing the point that's going on here that I don't understand how people like Dave Ramsey don't understand it, because he's a pretty smart guy financially, and maybe he does understand it, but he just is trying to bait you into clicking on the video, in which case, well played, sir. I just played you for myself as well as the few listeners who are listening to my show right now. When Dave Ramsey was in college working and getting out in 4 years, college was costing relatively nothing. Credit card companies had yet to catch on to the fact that, hey, guess what? There's like this whole generation of clueless idiots out there who, as long as we give them, who have never used credit before and don't understand how it can really screw up your life. It's like he didn't live in a time where you walked into college on the first day and there were 5 or 6 credit card companies before you even got to the registrar, handing you out swag and signing you up for, $5 Olive Garden certificates if you just put your name and number down on a credit card application. And this whole thing about like working in high school, I mean, again, a lot of my students work and they find it very helpful, but it's not something that they can really do anymore. Working is not something like I worked in high school, but now kids, there's so much pressure on kids now to make sure that they are doing everything that they possibly can to get scholarships for college. Like he said, but it's damn near impossible to get a scholarship for college anymore, or really even to get into a top flight college that you want to go to. In order to get these scholarships, you have to forego employment in high school, meaning that you have to take as many classes as you possibly can, AP classes, advanced placement, for those of you who don't know. You have to like join academic clubs, after school clubs, before school clubs to like stand out on your college application. And all of this is to hopefully get a scholarship, which will probably never come, because most kids who are getting scholarships now, and I can teach, I'm not, I'm experienced when I say this, are in a private school where they get super one-on-one attention from teachers. They get extra special care. They get private tutors. The kids in public school now are not getting the attention anymore. And so I think people like Dave Ramsey are fundamentally missing this idea, because he grew up in a different world than probably about 90% of Americans. I don't know. I mean, you could believe me or not believe me, but it's true. And, but just the way he talks is, my kids would call him a boomer. But in recent years, though, there's been this, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic happened, there's been this ultimate backlash against like not just work, but not just too much work, but like work in general. And I guess what I'm talking about is like a few weeks ago, one of my students, speaking of them, turned me on to the subreddit, which I never go into Reddit, but he was talking about anti-work. And this is something that has been coming up in the last few years, of this online community of people on Reddit who are, according to my students, completely anti-work. Like they don't want to work at all, period. Well, looking into it, that's not necessarily what it is. It's people who are protesting the way that we are typically treating work now. Like what we're doing with work now is like we are living to work rather than previously working to live. Like economists in the 1800s, people like John Maynard Keynes, they made this determination that based on how things are going in the Industrial Revolution, we may not even need to work, as much as we are now. We eventually, maybe by mid-20th century, we'll actually have a 4-day work week, because machines will be doing a lot of the labor. We'll kind of come in and supervise them and, do some, soft accounting and then go to the beach for 4 days. And this is what they were thinking, and that's not what happened at all. It was the complete opposite. What happened is that the 20th century came in and started creating these bullshit jobs. And these are like the Office Space type jobs. That movie Office Space, the cubicle jobs. The people who come in on weekends and are hired by companies to teach about teamwork and team building exercises. These fillers, people who just have jobs so that they can literally have jobs. They're jobs for show. And some of us are still working like we never stop working. We go home on Friday and we're working on weekend. This is definitely true of teachers. For me, it's like the only time of the week I really get to grade papers is the weekend. And I don't teach that many students. I teach at a private school where, again, a lot of these kids are getting scholarships because I've been spending the last 4 years working one-on-one with a lot of them. Okay. But I think that this whole anti-work thing, though, okay, really started getting a lot of traction when, of course, Fox News got onto it. Fox News is full of people, these anchors who love to just attack anybody who they deem as lazy and part of, this is something they term the wussification of America, right? And so they interviewed this guy a few years ago. I think this is actually just last year, or maybe not even that long ago. This guy named Doreen Ford, and this went all over the place. This viral, became a viral sensation. This guy Doreen Ford, who was like this moderator of anti-work on Reddit, and again, Fox News did their crack research department. Determined that it's just a bunch of people online who hate working and they don't want to do anything and they don't know how to do anything, and that's just kind of like an excuse. And so they had this interview with this guy and it just like blew up all over the internet, and my students were starting to talk about it too. And they were now keep in mind, my students are, the last time I checked, younger than me by about 20 years. Like they're not even millennials. They're part of what is now being labeled Generation Z. Okay, like we skipped over Y, and they're Z, so they get a letter. And Generation Z, to my point of knowledge, has not really been labeled negatively yet by anything. But anyway, so these kids are starting to. What's fascinating is they're starting to take their parents' stance, these so-called boomers of millennials, which is fascinating. So like the beating up on millennials is just coming from both sides. But everybody started talking about this moderator getting slammed on Fox News and basically exposing the whole anti-work movement. And I was like, man, this must have been some dynamite interview, just is so embarrassing and everything. So, and what I'm going to do is I'll play the whole thing for you. If I can turn it up.
In your ideal society.
Sure. I mean, I think as much as people want. I mean, I personally work. I have like a 25 hour work weeks, which I think is fairly good. So I would like less work hours.
And what do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker. Okay.
Yes.
And how?
Yeah. So
how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay. And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
I love working with dogs. If I had to do this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be super complaining. Dogs are wonderful animals. But I would love to teach. I would love to, work with people and stuff like that.
What would you teach, Doreen?
Philosophy mostly.
Philosophy.
Just introduction to philosophy, critical thinking, reason, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I would love to take your class, Doreen. I would just be taking notes the whole time. And you know what? A professor's a very similar schedule than something that you're imagining. So I think that actually might work perfectly for you. Listen, I think this might not be the greatest idea, but who am I to judge? To each their own, they say. It's a free country.
Sure.
Not everything's free,
You know,
but it is a free country.
So you get the idea. It's just this really, really smug Fox News guy talking to this guy. And by the way, this Doreen Ford does not really presenting like the best image of what he didn't comb his hair or anything. He looks what you would think a Reddit moderator would look like. But I was surprised though. That's it. That was like a 2.5 minute long interview, and this guy was just coming on saying what he was a dog walker. He did work. He wanted to be a college professor. He wanted to teach. He maybe is not being very practical about that path. Okay. But again, this guy, the interviewer, Jesse Waters, just goes right into this dude with just ready to judge him, ready to just kind of rip him apart and make fun of him. And he's just got these smug, glib grin on his face. But yeah, my students were telling me about this, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. B, millennials don't want to work. They're delicate little puppies." Like they were saying to this, and it just confused me totally. Because of how the young kids now are conditioned to call millennials snowflakes. But if I'm a snowflake, but they're also calling me a boomer. I can't be both. What do you want me to be? It's a very confusing, position to be in. Right. So, like, are millennials really snowflakes? I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask them one by one. Right. I think like we just have to kind of consider the fact that we are in an age where we're being asked to reconsider what it means to be a human being. It's absolutely true. What the guy says in Office Space, human beings were not made to sit in cubicles staring at computer screens. I mean, there's all this, research about how what we're doing, the current lives we're living, they're making us sick. They're making us unhealthy. They're making us die early. They're making us over-medicate ourselves. And it is true. And it is because of like this creation of certain bullshit jobs. But I think also what it is that we went in just 150 years from like working in small communities, like what we did in our work and our jobs supported like the local economy. We could actually see the fruits of our labor. But now it just seems like everything like most people do when they go to work is they support this anonymous global economy. They don't see any real incentive to work harder, because every day, no matter how little or how much they work, they're always rewarded with the same exact thing at the end of the day, which is going home and getting a steady paycheck at the end of every 2 weeks. And it's when you look at like the giant scale of how long human beings have been working, this is a relatively new concept. Yet it's something that's so ingrained in people like Dave Ramsey and people like these anti-work people that they can't even take a step back and say, okay, forget about the fact that we're talking to a bunch of kids with badly combed hair and hoodies with like nacho cheese stains all over them. And let's just like actually listen to what they maybe have to say. I certainly believe that that we're coming to the turning point. I think COVID showed us this. We're coming to the turning point in human civilization where we are rethinking the way that we work. But what I'm also afraid of is the way that, like, how so many companies, as soon as it was okay to like unmask and go back into work with your third booster shot, we just kind of completely forgot that the conversations we were having 2 years ago, and we all started figuring out that being virtual actually works pretty well. Working from home works pretty well. We're just forgetting those conversations ever happened. Right. I don't know. I don't know what I am right now. I mean, seriously. I cannot be both a boomer and a millennial at the same time. We have to make a choice.
And I could never fail, as much as I could pry my life away from all the things that constantly will undermine. It's time to go, so grab your coat. We'll leave directions there in yellow sticky notes. We got the food, we got the wine. We'll take a ride up here. It'll save us half the time. I'll almost get us there. Oh. I'll almost get us there. Oh. And I don't wanna bear on all the things I tried throughout my life to look away and fortunate to undermine. It's time to go, so grab your coat. I'll leave directions there on these yellow sticky notes. You got the food, I can't deny. We'll take a ride up here. It'll save us half the time. I'll almost get us there. Oh. I'll almost get us there. I shift this car right out of park. Only in our minds, only in the dark. It doesn't matter that we've had a few. I am seeing clear. I am seeing you.
I was looking at I just googled the word Wikipedia millennials, and I came up with a Wikipedia article. It's always fun just to like Google words and find out that there have been like thousands upon thousands of words written about that one word, and the word millennial is has a pretty big entry on the Wikipedia. This is looking at it. It's just got like a picture of a girl. Excuse me. A picture of a girl just sitting, like, reading a book against a brick wall. Like, this is Wikipedia. Oh, with headphones in. That's very important. Headphones in. Oh, and she's only like a couple of pages into the book by looks of how she's holding it. She's only got like a couple of pages flipped back. But this is Wikipedia's idea of what a millennial is. The caption is, a young woman reading outdoors in New York, 2009. It's got some pictures of famous millennials, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and the Backstreet Boys. Yes. I think the Backstreet Boys would technically be Generation X, right? Like, they're definitely somebody that a lot of middle school girls at the turn of the century listened to. But I think they are Generation X. I do not think that any one of those guys was born during or after the year 1982. Welcome back in here to the Midnight Citizen Studio. I hope you enjoyed that music break, that musical interlude. Yeah, we had some good music there, didn't we? Yeah, we had Derek Clegg was first with I'll Almost Get Us There from his album Solar. And following that was Daisy May with Citizen's Arrest. Both of those songs, by the way, could be found on the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. An amazing resource for free music for creators, run out of the WFMU radio station in Newark, New Jersey. And you could use all that music totally free as long as you attribute them, which I just did. So I hope you check that out. You can also listen to those songs as well as all the other songs I play here. You know, like the backing music right there. Yeah, all that stuff is compiled into a playlist that I will link in the show notes. If you just want to like listen to the music and not have to hear my voice, that's totally fine. I will take no offense. Yeah. But where can you find me if you want to hear my voice? Well, you can find me over at the best place is probably mikebooty.com/the Midnight Citizen. That's my website. You can also find me on youtube.com/mikebooty, where you can see me on video acting the fool. I actually just got, speaking of Reddit, I just got a nice message from somebody on Reddit saying like, yeah, I like your podcast, but your vlog, your video is way better, which I guess is I would rather you listen to the show rather than watch it, because when you're listening, you can be doing a whole bunch of things. But he said like, yeah, man, I put this on as a TV show and just played it in the background. And that's exactly what the show is meant to do. You're not supposed to be really, I don't really see my video on YouTube as like videos of my show. It's something you just like actively sit there and watch like it's Fear Factor or something, you know? Or it's like a show you binge on the Netflix. Now I am sounding like a boomer. You know, it's just a show you put on in the background. You chill out. I don't know. Do whatever. You know, you have a beer, right? Which I'm about to do. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot, I just spilled some of my pants. Yeah, no, you hang out. Where else can you find me? Oh, you can also find me on any podcast outlet that you listen to, iTunes, which I recently found out has been changed to Apple Podcasts, right? Not the iTunes of old. You can listen on Stitcher and Spotify, all those good places. And I am also on a network with the most amazing group of other podcasters who do shows exactly like mine, just people talking. It's like butter. God damn it. Over at the Overnightscape Underground, onsug, ONSUG.com. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. And during that musical interlude, speaking of the video, I was playing the live stream of Huntington Beach, California, the boardwalk at Huntington Beach, California. This is a new thing I've been doing for the last few weeks. It's called Night Cam, where I just find a live stream of somewhere in the world and I just play it for you while we're listening to music together. And we can see what people are doing right now as we record the show. And of course there is a link in the description to that as well, but yeah. But I thought I would choose a beach setting, you know. It's a spring break. We should be going to the beach here, right? People walking to the boardwalk, living their lives in the night in America. Okay. Yeah. So what is this whole thing about spring break? So this is very much like, if you work like a traditional job, you know, you like work all year long. Spring break means absolutely nothing to you probably, unless maybe you have kids and they have spring break, you know, but spring break is not really something that's given to you as an adult. Unless you're like me and you're a teacher, right? As a matter of fact, I didn't even start calling it spring break until probably high school, because here in Alabama, we always just called it AEA. That 1 week that you get in the middle of spring where you just don't have to go to school for an entire week and you just get to hang out and do whatever. We called it AEA. It stood for Alabama Education Association, because it was this idea, right? The teachers union was at one point the strongest union in Alabama, which is very much a right to work state. The state does not really support unions that much, but these educators had a very strong union. And I guess the idea is that they unionized. One of the rights they got was to take a week off during the middle of spring every year. So we just called it AAA when we were kids. And my mom called it that too. She was a teacher. But yeah, this idea though of, this is another thing I Googled during the break. This idea of spring break, like where did it come from? When was like the first spring break? You know, but yeah, apparently it says that it started, this may be a surprise to you. Colgate University here in the United States is where the first record of the American spring break could be traced to. Colgate University in New York City. That was, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. No, it says here, yeah, at the very top, it says spring break is a vacation period, including Easter holidays and early spring at universities and school, which started during the 1930s in the U.S., but already existed in Europe since the late 1800s. And it's now observed in many other countries as well. Spring break is frequently associated with extensive gatherings and riotous partying in warm climate locations like Miami Beach, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida, Gulf Shores, Alabama, and Cancun, Mexico. You know, I always thought like Gulf Shores was a convenient place to go to spring break for people here in Alabama, just because it was there, because Alabama is technically a coastal state. But apparently, no, Gulf Shores, Alabama is like the spring break mecca, one of them of the entire Western world. But yeah, it says here, history. In the mid-1930s, a swimming coach from Colgate University decided to take his team down to Florida for some early training at a brand new Olympic-sized pool in sunny Fort Lauderdale. The idea clicked with other college swim coaches, and soon the spring training migration became an annual tradition for swimmers nationwide. Now, spring break is an academic tradition in various, mostly Western country that is scheduled for different periods depending on the state and sometimes the region. So that's spring break. In America, originated with a swimming coach at Colgate University, which is definitely not where I expected it to have originated. So, so there's that. You know. Yeah, mostly for me, I associate spring break with FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. That's what I always think about it. I always think of spring break as just this time when I'm like hanging around my house all day long, not doing anything for an entire week. I'm enjoying it because I'm not in school, and the day is mine to do whatever I want with it. But a week or so before spring break would happen, all the kids around me, particularly in high school, would get to talking about what their plans were for spring break. And a lot of those plans ended up going to the beach. And they would always talk about in high school about who they knew who was older, like their older sister, their older brother, their stepdad, you know, who had a condo down in like Gulf Shores, where they would go and they said like, yeah, man, and they've just got like a truck bed full of Sixers, right? And it was like this idea that like people are going down and just having this amazing time. And, you know, I'm staying back at the house playing tiddlywinks, watching reruns of I Love Lucy. And occasionally, you know, of course I would turn it on to MTV, because MTV in the 90s was where you would go pretty much throughout the entire months of March and April to see spring break and to get to experience it in your house. And, you know, I just had just enough self-awareness to realize that I felt like a loser, you know, watching people have these like great times in, you know, it's like MTV just associated with fear of missing out, you know. Let's get a promo for MTV Spring Break. You know, they would have it every year. They would always have these artists and like these beautiful girls hanging out on the beach, and along with these like muscle-bound apex predator guys. Yeah. It was intimidating, but God, I wanted to like be there so bad. I can't even tell you. Let's get this up.
Spring Break 1996 defines live performance with The Grind featuring LL Cool J. MTV rocks with the Goo Goo Dolls, Collective Soul, and Bush. Bonnie doubles with La Bouche and Busta Rhymes. Get next to Jenny with Cypress Hill and No Doubt. And luxury options like Singled Out and Fame or Shame. It all begins tomorrow at 3 p.m. MTV Spring Break.
God, man, look at that. They got that guy on the acoustic guitar, like, getting splashed with water. Oh, my God. And, like, Carson Daly was there, and Jenny McCarthy. You know, just all these scions of youth in the 90s. You know, the Goo Goo Dolls. And I wanted to go hang out with Bush and sing Glycerin. And Gwen Stefani was there. God, I wanted that so bad, you know. But I was there at the house, you know, eating like just a bag of popcorn, watching The Grind, and just missing out on everything, and just feeling like my life will never be like that. I'll never get to go and do that and and hang out with these people at spring break, right? I found this clip for you remember that show Remote Control, MTV? You know, like they would have all of their shows go to the beach and record special episodes of the beach. God dang, sorry. And they would have all their shows record special episodes of the beach. And, they would all be like in their, in their flip flops and shorts and everything, hanging out in front of this giant stage. And, and Remote Control was one of these shows. This was like a game show that sort of like rewarded kids for just like knowing a lot about pop culture. That was very much like, this isn't so much a millennial thing. I guess maybe it is. Like we have YouTube channels and things, but one of the things that distinguished Generation X during the 90s was just this unprecedented encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture television, because that's what was on. The television was on all the time. It reruns, like, so all you did was watch Gilligan's Island, the Brady Bunch, Leave It to Beaver, like all day long, and just soak up all of the knowledge and see how the episodes connected to each other. And then you would get together with your friends and just have these like philosophical conversations about the existential crises of Smurfs and things like that. And I think a really good example of this, of course, is presented in, again, the Richard Linklater movie Slacker. But Remote Control was showcased that zeitgeist of Generation X culture, just having this crazy, it was like just a Jeopardy, but for pop culture, right? So, yeah, but here's an episode. Oh, no, we're not going to play the whole thing, just a little taste of what I was missing in the year 1990 at spring break on MTV.
Went up the hill. They both had $1.25. Jill came down with $2.50. You think they wanted water?
Jesus. There's like this like hot girl in a bikini dancing next to them. Like they always had hot girls in bikinis on MTV. Like I really don't know if any women actually like watch this channel, but here's the host of it. Oh, I know this guy.
We are again. Once again, how about a hand for our guest stars? Dr. Dre and Ed Lover from Yo MTV Raps. The lovely Susan Ashley, the lovely Steve Jenkins, the lovely Hawaiian Tropic, lovely people from Hawaiian Tropic, and, of course, conspicuous in his absence, Mr. Ken Ober. And Ken Ober wanted to be here, and he can't be here.
Yeah, that's the face of youth culture in the 1990s, Colin Quinn. Remember that? He hosted Weekend Update after Norm Macdonald left. I've never really thought of Colin Quinn as like a young kids comedian, but apparently there he is on MTV in the year 1990, hosting Remote Control.
Florida. But what's the name of the primetime sitcom that takes place at the house next door? Are you trying to? Oh, Eric.
The Jeffersons.
Good guess, Scott.
227.
Good guess. Okay, since you guys got it wrong, we'll be right back. And the babe will be in control, I guess. I don't know. Here we go. Keep it going.
So the question he just asked was, what show, what TV spinoff takes place next door to where the Golden Girls live? I don't know the answer to that. Is it Maude? No, Maude was before the Golden Girls, right?
What do you say? What channel would you like it to be?
Channel 9 looks good to me.
Okay, I guess there's no democracy here. Channel 9.
Channel 9
That's right. Channel 9. Oh, my God. Leave out the beaver. Okay, ready? Here it is. Leave out the beaver, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Biff Henderson, the beaver, Paul Schaefer, and the top 10 lists.
Late Night with David Letterman.
That would be correct, my friend. Okay. What would you like to do?
Number 9.
Channel.
Stick with number 9.
Stick with number 9. Okay.
Number 9.
Maggie, the beaver, Homer, and Bart.
The Hogan Family.
No, Eric.
Andy Griffith.
No. Come on, Allison.
I don't know.
Cartoon, The Simpsons. Oh, all right. Doesn't matter. Okay. Lovely, Channel 9. Okay, you're still in control, my homie.
Right, because this was 1990. People wouldn't really know The Simpsons yet, would they? Yeah. That was the time that The Simpsons was really taking off, but I could see kids would not really know much about it anymore. You know, like the whole thing, the whole game they were playing just now was Leave Out the Beaver. You know, because like by the 1990s, the word beaver had taken on quite a sexual context, right? It stands in for the part of the female anatomy, the vagina. It stands in for the vagina. So everybody's like saying like, "Oh, Wally, I think you've been awfully hard on the beaver," right? Like what they were saying is like, I think you've been awfully hard on June Lockhart's vagina, right? Let's just go ahead and just say it and grow up and, you know. Oh man. Yeah, it's good to be here again in the studio, the Midnight Citizen studio. Still a little bit of show left. Yeah, I'm just looking around here, and you know, I have to say that I'm a little nervous. You know, because I feel like someday this will all not be mine anymore. You know, one of the things that they're talking about with millennials and work, right, is there's this thing called the Great Resignation that was coined just about a year ago, and referring to people, mostly millennials, who are leaving their jobs en masse to, you know, to do their own thing, to do whatever they want, not really doing a typical job anymore. And I think I'm one of them. Actually, I think I'm one of them, because as of this week, I announced that I'm actually leaving my job. I'm leaving. Now I'm not leaving teaching, but I am leaving my job, and very much like that guy from that subreddit moderator earlier, I'm going to go teach college. So if you're a Fox News host out there and you want to interview me in a very condescending and patronizing fashion, you know, just comment, send me an email, and we'll set that up. You know, we'll set that up. So yeah, no, I'm leaving my job at my beloved high school that I've been teaching at for 5 years now. For about the last year and a half or so, I've been going for my master's in English at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And a few weeks ago, I was offered a teaching assistantship, which essentially means that I will have to leave my full-time job and go and complete my master's at UAB. And they actually completely reimburse my tuition, so I won't have to pay for a dime of it, which is awesome. But the trade-off is that I have to teach. You know, I'll start off being a teaching assistantship and eventually teach my own classes while I'm also taking classes. So I'll be teaching, like, these are the people, like, when I started college at UAB 20 years ago, you know, I was taught by teaching assistants. These are graduate students who come in and are getting tuition reimbursement, and being paid back for that by coming in and teaching classes and maybe getting like a little bit of stipend to help them buy food and things like that. This is typically a job that is reserved for graduate students in their 20s, although I do understand that people who are older, like me, do it also. And you know, this is like the weirdest thing about what I'm doing, because I am the kind of guy, I've never had one job for longer than 5 years. I'm somebody who's always kind of switched around jobs. And I think if I were talking to Dave Ramsey or somebody else, they would probably call me, you know, maybe a snowflake who can't commit to anything. And I don't think that's it at all. I think this is kind of the way that, you know, life is meant to be lived for a lot of people who maybe don't even realize it. You know, those people who are uncomfortable in their jobs and just like working in a job because, you know, they have to pay bills or they have to pay a mortgage. they have to support their families. They have to retire someday, and they can't leave their job now or they'd lose all these benefits and everything. I think that's hostage thinking right there. And it may be a little bit of Helsinki syndrome where you're trying to just like always listen to what, your boss is saying. I think if you're miserable at a job, you're well within your rights to probably leave it, if you can. And this is kind of what I do. And what I do almost every single time I start a job, and I did this when I started the job that I'm currently at 5 years ago. I asked myself, what do I want this job to lead to? What is the next thing I want it to go to? And I do that at every single job. And I was very clear to myself when I started my teaching job back then. I said, like, in the next 5 years, I want to begin graduate school. I want to go back and get my master's in English. Like I have a degree, a master's degree in education, with the certification to teach English, but I don't have a full English master's. So, I wanted to go back and get a full English master's, and I realized that I was going to need to essentially use my job now as a platform to do that, like be able to work while at the same time going and taking classes. But I knew that my next level, I wanted to go from teaching high school to teaching college. And so that opportunity came up this year and I had to take it. I had to take it. So now I'm in the position of saying, like, what do I want this thing to take me to? Well, obviously, I'm getting a master's. So, what I want to do is I want to teach college next. I think that's what I want to do. But I would also like to eventually, write books. I want to use the university system as a chance to kind of get plugged into that whole world of academic writing, of just sitting around and basically, reading all day and, talking to other people about what you're reading and just participate in that whole grand academic conversation that's been going on for many, many years. I want to put my voice in it. And that's ultimately what I want to do. Right. But that being said, I need money. This job comes very much with a pay decrease. It does. So it's, they're paying my tuition, but at the same time, the trade-off is that I am getting a little bit of a stipend. So I'm going to have to basically supplement my income, quite a bit with it. So, those are the breaks, right? Them's the spring breaks, as I would say, because it is spring break and I'm going to be spending it, working, but, that's pretty normal, for a teacher. This is one of the things that they say. There's this criticism of teachers going around out there. And, one of my favorite comedians of all time who died last year, Norm Macdonald, who actually preceded Colin Quinn as the host of Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live, giving you the goofy fake news of the week. Norm Macdonald years ago had this stand-up routine that said, like, I don't really like those teachers who say that they're the heroes because, for one, they get the same amount of vacation as a child, right? And it is true. We do. Like, teachers get spring break. They get these summer vacations. This is like, what adults don't get. Adults go into a job and they work it all the time. They work it from January to December. They work during the summers. They work during spring break. Maybe they get 2 weeks a year for vacation. If that, that's actually pretty good. They don't get a whole lot of vacation. So people always look at teachers and say, like, oh, you get summers off. And this is very much like even some of my students have said to me, I want to be a teacher someday because you get summers off. Well, as a teacher, I know some teachers who actually do take a significant amount of the summer and do nothing or go on vacation and things like that. It's usually because, they have a significant other who makes a good amount of money. But everybody can pretty much agree on one thing about teachers, that they don't make a whole lot. Right. And, this is something that happens. Like in the summer, we still get paid through the summer, but again, it's still not a lot. So most of us have to use our vacations, like spring break and summer, to make an additional amount of money by doing things, by doing side gigs, right? And it fits in very well right now because we're kind of in this side hustle economy where, you know, like people like me, you could do Grubhub. I go and deliver food at night. I tutor, like I actually have a tutor, like a couple of tutoring sessions tomorrow. But this is what we do. Like we use the opportunity to try and supplement our income and make a little bit of extra money, right? You know. But yeah, I mean, this thing though, you know, getting back to it is this criticism of teachers that we have summers off, even if you understand that most of us actually use that time to work and find other means of income. It's still kind of silly because, you know, with children here in America, we take them for 18 years and we put them through an educational system where we give them vacations. We give them 2 weeks off at Christmas. We give them 1 week off in the spring, 9 to 12 weeks off in the summer. And then we take them out of school, we put them into the workforce where they don't have that anymore. And it's very weird and kind of counterintuitive. And I don't understand how we haven't found this way to give adults like a summer vacation, the same amount as for kids. I don't really get that, you know. But yeah, no, I'm looking for other ways of making money, obviously. I don't know if this show could be a side hustle. If you want to give me some money, you can do that. Always, you know, that'd be kind of nice. Thank you for that in advance. But yeah, it's so strange that, you know, for 18 years, kids have all of this vacation time and then they are told like, sorry, now you got to work for 40 years and you don't get to take another vacation this long again until you're retired. It's just such a weird thing that we do in this country, you know, in this world, I guess, also, you know. But in a way, that's one of the reasons I like teaching. And that's one of the reasons that I do like the gig economy. I'll go to some of these restaurants when I'm delivering food and I sort of say to myself, like, no wonder nobody quote unquote wants to work right now because people here look miserable. They look like they want to kill you as soon as you order a hamburger from them. Nobody looks like they're having a good time working at these places. And I think the reason being is because, you know, no matter how hard or how little they work, they're making the same amount of money every single hour and they're getting to go home every night. There's no incentive really for them to work hard other than just to not lose their jobs. And so that's why I like the gig economy, because I can work whenever I want to. I can set my own hours. I can, the amount of work that I put in is the amount of money that I get out of it. And I enjoy that. And I think that that's what work should be. And that's one of the things that teaching does. Yeah, sure, you make the same amount of money every couple of weeks, but you're also given all this extra time to make extra money and do extra things and everything. And it is a very flexible job in that regard, even though it's incredibly difficult and very stressful at times. But I've always liked it because I'm going in and like, I enjoy reading books. I enjoy, you know, analyzing fiction and nonfiction and talking about characters with people. You know, I get to go in and do it for a living. I mean, it's a really, I'm very, very fortunate in that regard. I do like it quite a lot. this homeless guy was making fun of my car the other day. I stopped to get gas. And he came up to me and started to try and have a conversation with me. And when it became very apparent that I had no cash to give him, I had no money to give him, he started ridiculing me. You know, he's like one of these homeless guys who has to bring you down to make himself feel better. You know, he started looking at my car and he's like, at least I'm not driving around a broke ass car. And with that being said, let's go down. Let's take a break and go down to that favorite place down there in the corner where there's always something new, something to watch. Let's take a trip down to the Video Street Video Store. What do you say? Yeah, we'll go down there and I'll be back right after.
Fly over Mars. Take a trek through a prehistoric jungle. Tour a house that has not yet been built. It's called virtual reality, and as Jay Shadler found out, all it takes is a special helmet and a glove, and you're off.
You're gone, John. Your history.
It's a computer-generated world where you see and move and feel. Will real life ever be the same?
From ABC News, with anchors Diane Sawyer in New York, Sam Donaldson in Washington, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace, Judd Rose, Jay Shadler, and Sylvia Chase. This is Prime Time.
It was more than 100 years ago that Lewis Carroll wrote about Alice's trip through the looking glass. Now, that fiction has become a reality, or you might say a virtual reality, because that's the name of a new computer technology that many believe will revolutionize the way we live. Jay Shadler explains, virtual reality lets you travel to places you've never been, and see things you've never seen, and do things you've never done without ever leaving the room.
If dreams could be sold, what would you buy? The poet's question may soon have a practical answer.
The goal of virtual reality is simple. It's total submersion, complete detachment from reality.
The doors are opening on a world where the line between reality and illusion has dissolved.
I want to fly over Mars. I want to experience everything the roving exploration machines experience. I want to be there. I want to explore the planets myself.
Advances in computer graphics over the past 10 years are making it possible to create artificial three-dimensional worlds, complete and convincing, though they only exist in the mind of the viewer and the heart of the computer. Known as virtual reality, or VR, this new technology uses pictures and sounds to wrap around your senses. Imagine a place and you'll be able to step into it. Conjure up a dream and you'll be able to fly through it.
It's unreal. It's different, and it's so natural that when you experience it, it's something that people come out of the system and say, wow, that's unreal.
Jonathan Waldron is a 31-year-old computer scientist in England. As a college student, he designed computer graphics. Now, he's launched one of the first companies to mass-produce virtual reality systems.
Okay, so here we are going into virtual space, and here I want to show you a little application where we've got a car engine.
As with most VR systems, Waldron's uses stereoscopic images projected onto tiny screens inside the viewer's helmet. A powerful computer then generates the graphics and sounds needed to convince the viewer he's in another world. The illusion is completed when motion sensors in Waldron's glove and helmet allow him to begin interacting with whatever he sees.
What I can do is, as you can see, freely move the articles all around anywhere I like in space. Now, on a conventional computer, this would take an awful long time. Here in the virtual world, you just pick them up and move them around.
The technology that created this hands-on control of an imaginary world is already being used to recreate distant worlds.
There is a cliff along the horizon here. That's one cliff of Valles Marineris. There's the canyon running in this direction east.
Michael McGreevy is a principal engineer at NASA Ames Research Center in California. Using virtual reality techniques, two-dimensional electronic pictures sent back from the Viking orbiters have been converted into a three-dimensional model of the planet Mars.
So I would want to walk right around between these boulders.
NASA geologists and armchair astronauts are literally exploring the universe without ever leaving home.
You can extend your presence across the information domain. You can be any size, any place, at any time.
There are, of course, more down-to-earth applications of virtual reality. Detailed models of city landscapes are giving urban planners a chance to redesign Main Street without ever lifting a stone. And architects can show you around your new home even before the first brick is laid.
The hardest part of designing anything, including a building, is deciding what it is you want to design exactly.
Professor Frederick Brooks is one of the pioneers in virtual reality. His Computer Science Center at the University of North Carolina was partially designed with VR technology. Instead of helmets and sensory gloves, a treadmill and handlebars steer the computer.
This kind of technology lets not only the architect, but more important, the client, walk together through the proposed new building and suddenly say, oh, this kitchen works fine for cooking, but it doesn't work for parties.
Seem far-fetched? Try far-flung. In Japan, virtual reality is already a consumer's choice. In this Tokyo showroom, a housewife thinking about redesigning her kitchen need only slip into VR gloves and goggles. But one of the most promising applications of virtual reality is in medicine. This cancer patient has a tumor. It has to be located and then bombarded with radiation beams. Current techniques for positioning those beams are painstakingly slow and potentially dangerous.
The whole technique of radiation therapy requires bringing very strong X-ray beams to bear on the tumor. The task is, how do you put the beams through so that they hit the tumor and miss other sensitive parts of the anatomy, such as the spinal cord or the eyes?
So Brooks and his colleagues have begun testing a VR system that takes traditional CAT scan images and turns them into a three-dimensional model of the patient's body. Doctors will be able to plan their method of attacking the tumor on this virtual patient, even before the real patient enters the hospital.
So for all intents and purposes, the physician could walk around this virtual body and kind of reach up into space and align these radiation beams to zap the tumor.
Yes, and he sees the tumor, and he sees the beams in their standard position, and he reaches out and takes one and aims it until it goes through the tumor. And he can look along it and see what it's hitting and what it's missing.
Clearly, virtual reality now straddles that foggy boundary between fantasy and fact. Just 9 years ago, a science fiction movie called Tron showed what it might be like not just to play a video game, but to become part of it. Well, Hollywood's dream is John Waldron's nightmare. At least that's what he calls this virtual world made for two. A video game where the players are on the inside looking out.
Now the visor here.
I've got a joystick. I've got a helmet.
That's right, and you just put the helmet on like that. Right. And of course you see that you have a gun in your hand, and to fire the gun, you simply press the trigger. And I'll get in and join you.
Okay. Come into my world, John.
Linked by a computer that tracks our individual motions, Waldron and I are now both inside the same electronic world.
There you are.
Hi.
Hello there.
The game board consists of several checkerboard platforms floating in space. The goal, to chase and shoot your opponent.
I've got the gun in my hand here. I hate to do this to you right now, but I missed.
It lobs down. We've made gravity twice what it should be. You're gone, John. Your history.
As the game proceeds, two prehistoric birds slip into view. If one picks you up by the scruff of your neck, the sense of flying can be all too realistic.
I'm a little worried about that flying pterodactyl at this point. Oh, here comes the bird. Where's that bird?
He's got you. He's got you again.
Ah, he got me from behind. Oh, my God. I think I have to take this helmet off. I'm physically feeling the space here for a second. Oh, my God.
While I was playing the game, it seems virtual reality was playing a trick on my mind. The pictures and sounds around me were all that was necessary to convince me I was walking, flying, and falling.
The visual display at the moment is crude. There are these crude cartoon-like characters. That's not the issue. The fact of the matter is, in virtual reality, there is no limit to what we can do. We can be anywhere, anytime, any place. And that's the issue. It's total escapism.
Quite a game, or is it? Virtual reality had its roots in flight simulators, and today the military is a major user of the technology. American pilots plan their bombing runs on Iraq across a virtual sky, and tank commanders practiced on a virtual battlefield.
We are now reaching the point where the simulations are so realistic that the line between playing a game or simulation and actually blowing people up is becoming blurred.
Howard Rheingold has just published the first book on virtual reality. And like all technology, this one, he says, comes complete with a double-edged sword.
There's no way of a soldier in a simulator knowing whether their commanding officer has thrown a switch somewhere and instead of playing a game, they're bombing real people.
For now, any flickering moral doubts about this technology remain hidden by its potential power and promise. Today, VR is still in its infancy. But as computers grow more powerful, the graphics more detailed, and the sensations more human, virtual reality will force us to ask, what is real? It will be up to our children to find the answer.
What kind of reality are our grandchildren going to accept? Is the natural world with real trees and real rivers going to be there? Or are we going to live in 800-story high-rises all plugged into our virtual realities in which we walk through artificial forests? This might be a turning point for the human race. We might be going inward towards an artificial experience.
In case you're wondering about the virtual price tag for one of these systems, right now they run from about $50,000 to $200,000. We'll leave you tonight with some more pictures from virtual reality, and we invite you to join us again next Thursday night for another edition of Primetime Live.
If you were to come and see me on my birthday, September 19th in the year 1991, you probably would have walked into the living room there in Moody, Alabama, where I was crashing on the sugar for my birthday cake, watching that report on virtual reality and the future of it. Yeah, that was from ABC News. And that's the only thing that could get me to watch the news back then, is just news about virtual reality and other, said video games. And I find that report to be like devastatingly accurate in terms of where we've come. Obviously, virtual reality is one of those things that kind of comes and goes about every, it has like these cycles. It's kind of like the clown in It. Like every 5 years it appears. It gets our hopes up, and then it just, destroys them. And we're just back to playing with stupid controls again. But I think, this time, virtual reality may honestly be here to stay. I think this is like the final chance that it has. Facebook has completely rebranded itself to handle virtual reality, beginning with Mark Zuckerberg's acquirement of the Oculus Rift from Palmer Luckey. God, almost 10 years ago now. He's obsessed with virtual reality. And indeed, during COVID, they made this big jump and they were all over the place. Mark Zuckerberg was all over the place promoting the Oculus Quest, trying to convince people that, this isn't just for video games anymore. It could be, you could go into a cartoon office building and sit at a cartoon board table and meet with your cartoon colleagues. It's just that's kind of the idea of it. And Facebook is one of the biggest companies on the planet right now. And honestly, I think if they fail, I don't think anybody will pick up after them. It's kind of like if Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos just collide their rockets into each other in the stratosphere of the Earth on their way to Mars. I just don't think anybody there will ever again be any company big enough to try this. So if Facebook fails with VR, I think VR has done itself. I just think the stakes have never been higher for it, and I've been following it a little bit lately. I've actually been thinking, like, is this the year that I finally get an Oculus Quest? And I just don't. It's not there yet, right? Where I just want it to be. I was looking in it, and it seems like this idea of like the Oculus Horizons. You can actually go into a world. You can build a world for people to come and hang out in. I thought about it, like, wouldn't it be so cool if I could like actually do a podcast in virtual reality, because nobody's really done that yet. There aren't any major podcasts, in the virtual reality arena, at least not that I'm aware of. Like I could be the first. Like, this is almost like getting into podcasting in 2003, like right after Adam Curry, the former MTV VJ, got into it. Like I could be one of those guys, the early adopters of virtual reality podcast. And I could set up like a little campfire, and you could come in and sit down with me, and we could talk about Dave Ramsey. But I was just looking at it. It's just not where I want it to be yet. It's not, it just seems to me like not a lot of people are on it. But then, it's basically like these hardcore virtual reality people, or just children, children who are essentially adopting virtual reality the same way that they adopt any kind of new game console when it comes out. They play around with it for a while, and then they get bored with it and go do something else. Like it's going to be very, very difficult to convince adults in this world on a massive scale to adopt virtual reality technology. I think it would be very cool if we are going to continue this trend of like working from home, and like ditching work, ditching the office life, the commute, spending all of this money on gas because of the Russia oil embargo. And staying home and working instead. I still don't know if I can be convinced to just like go in and hang out with all of my colleagues in this, in this virtual space and look at them all as cartoon characters. Like, I think it's a novelty, and I don't understand like why Facebook is really doing this, like why they think that we want to see each other, like as video game characters. Like I think that's a terrible idea. But, whatever. I mean, if they can succeed at it, then who am I to judge, I guess. I don't know. Here's my grand conclusion for this whole episode. All right. I don't think folks my age are snowflakes. I don't think we are, because these people that grew up with me who were approaching 40, elder millennials, and I don't know about the regular millennials, maybe the kids who grew up between, say, like, 1991, 1992 and 1999. I don't know if they're the same thing, but I definitely think for like elder millennials who grew up, cuddling and the Cabbage Patch dolls and the Kid Sisters and taking the My Buddy dolls, into the trees with them and just like sleeping with them at night and all that, and washing them and drying them like they were little babies. I don't think it taught us to be soft. Because here's the thing. I think for every positive, touchy-feely, softy thing that we had growing up, there was an opposite number to just like knock it right off the shelf. Okay. It's like, for instance, I told you already, My Buddy inspired the movie Child's Play. I mean, who wanted to see Child's Play the most? Kids who had My Buddy dolls because they could relate to it. They remember they fell asleep at night with that thing sitting on their shelf, just looking at them with their eyes like bugged out and looking at them like they did want a piece of their soul. Right? Like, so My Buddy, it wasn't like it was an unconditional relationship. No, when that thing looked at you through the night in your dark bedroom, you knew that there was a condition to it, and you were going to do whatever you could to please it. Yes, my buddy, I will bring you the cat. Like there's also like children's entertainment in the 80s was terrifying. Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, The Goonies, Gremlins. You had this cute little gremlin named Gizmo and all of his like maniac psycho friends. The only way you could get rid of them was by like sticking them in the microwave and hitting nuke, right? Return to Oz. You remember the Wheelies? Basically any shit out of Jim Henson's dark mind. Yeah, we grew up when Jim Henson was still alive. Don't believe that. That guy had a sick sense of humor. And he made sure that he let all of us kids know about it, right? So no, I think like we were pretty healthily balanced, in the 1980s. We were. We're absolutely, these elder millennials, like people my age and a little bit younger, grew up with a very healthy sense of what the world really is. It could be a nice, positive, happy place, but could also be really, really twisted and messed up, right? So for any of you millennials who were born after that, after Jim Henson died, let's say, I really can't vouch. You probably are snowflakes. Okay. So, get a job. I don't know. And with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining me here tonight in the Midnight Citizen Studio. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a long show, and I hope you stuck through to the bitter end. But if not, that's okay. You can always go back later and listen to it. I am online at mikebooty.com/The Midnight Citizen. Also at onsug, onsug.com. Right? I'm there as well. Where else am I? Yeah, I'm over at youtube.com/MikeBooty where you can see me doing the show. I'm also at Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your great podcast. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much once again, and I will see you next time. Keep your eyes open.